To support the development of Latin American and Caribbean countries, China will commit credit lines of 66 billion yuan, $9.18 billion, of credit funds to Latin American countries.
In a bold attempt to reshape global alliances, China has just extended a $9 billion credit line to Latin America and the Caribbean, signaling a major geopolitical play to rival US influence in the region. At the heart of this push, Colombia's decision to formally join China's Belt and Road Initiative. But what does this mean for the future of China's influence, now extending far beyond Asia?
There are no winners in tariff wars and trade wars. Bullying and tyranny will only isolate oneself. China and Latin American and Caribbean countries are important members of the global South. Independence and self-reliance are our glorious traditions. Development and revitalization are our natural rights. Fairness and justice are our common pursuits.
President Xi Jinping addressed leaders from around 30 nations gathered in Beijing for the China CELAC Forum, announcing the 66 billion yuan credit line and promising fresh infrastructure investments. His message was clear: Latin America and the Caribbean are crucial partners in the global South. Xi vowed to increase Chinese imports from the region and encourage firms to invest deeply. This comes at a time when the US grip on the region is loosening. Since 2000, China's trade with CELAC, which is the community of Latin American and Caribbean countries, has skyrocketed from $12 billion to over $515 billion in 2024. Brazil alone accounts for nearly half of those exports, making it a key node in China's Latin America strategy.
Funds from Chinese financial institutions exceed the credits offered by the World Bank or the IDB. The partnership with China is a dynamic element for the regional economy.
Colombia's recent induction into the Belt and Road Initiative marks a turning point. Chinese state media called it a deepening of strategic ties, while Colombian President Gustavo Petro declared that the history of our foreign relations is changing. The Belt and Road Initiative, or the BRI, is central to China's global ambitions, blending infrastructure financing, trade, and diplomatic outreach. 2/3 of Latin American nations have now signed up, yet not everyone is rushing in. Panama, for instance, announced it won't renew its BRI membership when it expires, citing reassessment of its foreign policy priorities. But beneath the surface of this economic courtship lies a deeper concern: China's so-called debt trap diplomacy. Critics argue that while Beijing offers attractive loans and massive infrastructure projects, they often come with opaque terms, high interest rates, and geopolitical strings attached. Countries like Sri Lanka, which handed over its Hambantota port to China on a 99-year lease after failing to repay loans, serves as a cautionary tale. In Latin America, while no such scenario has unfolded yet, concerns persist, especially in smaller economies already struggling with dollar-denominated debt. The shift to yuan-based credit could reduce dependence on the US currency, but it may also increase long-term reliance on China economically and politically. Beyond economics, there's also a geopolitical angle. 7 of the 12 countries that still maintain diplomatic ties with Taiwan are in Latin America or the Caribbean. China's offensive, including inviting Taiwan, recognizing Haiti and St. Lucia to the summit, appears aimed at quietly isolating the island diplomatically. Xi also announced visa-free travel for citizens of Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Peru, and Uruguay starting June 1st. It's a symbolic but strategic gesture, placing Latin American countries on par with many European and Asian nations in terms of access to China. Brazil is playing its cards shrewdly. As one of the world's top agricultural exporters, it's seizing the opportunity presented by US-China tensions. With China scaling back US food imports, Brazil's soy, beef, and pork are finding new markets. In April and May 2025 alone, Brazil exported nearly 2 million tons of soybeans to China. And with China cancelling a large US pork order, Brazilian exporters are stepping in fast. It's a delicate balancing act. While China is Brazil's top trading partner, the US remains its biggest foreign investor. Brazilian presidents regularly visit both Washington and Beijing, maintaining strong relations on both fronts. This dual diplomacy reflects a broader regional trend. The region has clearly pivoted towards China in the 21st century, not just for trade, but also as a strategic alternative. China has hosted 17 China-LAC business summits, signed free trade agreements with 5 countries in the region, and poured nearly $600 billion in FDI, 21% of all its overseas investments. That investment is now shifting from mining and oil into sectors like green energy, fintech, and telecom. China's loans to the region also paint a telling picture. Between 2009 and 2017, Chinese lending exceeded that of the World Bank. Though lending has slowed with China's own economic cooling, yuan-based deals are becoming more common, helping borrowers sidestep dollar-denominated debt traps. But the message from Brazilian President Lula at the forum was one of cautious optimism. Latin America stands at a strategic crossroad, quoted by China, watched closely by Washington.
关税战、贸易战，没有赢家。
China is willing to work with Latin America to implement global development initiatives, firmly safeguard the multilateral trading system, maintain the stability and smooth flow of global industrial and supply chains, and maintain an open and cooperative international environment.
With billions on the table, infrastructure deals rising, and diplomacy intensifying, the question is not whether China is influencing the region, it already is. The question now is, how will the region respond, especially the United States? For more news and updates, keep watching Live Mint.